I just spent 6 weeks in Asia making videos. I was trying to be super prepared, so I packed a whole bunch of shit, maybe too much. I was thinking about it and I realized I didn't really need all that stuff. This is what I'd leave at home and what I would still take with me and why. If you're planning on filming your trip, or you just want to know what a minimal YouTube kit could look like, this could give you some ideas. Okay, let's start with the stuff I need to retire. The very first piece of gear I would leave behind if I was to travel again. And I know this is gonna sound weird, because you would think this is like the bread and butter of all of this, but it's my big camera. This is the Sony a7S III with a 20 to 40 millimeter Tamron lens. This is not like the heaviest camera there is when it comes to consumer video cameras, but I don't like traveling with it. I don't think it was made for travel. I just started doing that because I wanted the best possible camera, and specifically I wanted something that was really good with low light performance. Shooting bars, restaurants, night markets, events, and yeah, this thing looks the best at night out of all the cameras I own. I've taken this on every trip, to Europe, on my honeymoon cruise, even when I visit like the west coast of Canada. I take this everywhere, and I feel like it's time to stop. Like, I can't keep doing it. I don't enjoy it. Most of all, I kind of wear myself out using it all day. I have this like fear of losing it or dropping it because it's so heavy and expensive. It's just, it gets too sweaty, sometimes literally. The other thing is, you pull this out in a public place and people just immediately start making assumptions about what you're doing. Maybe it draws in negative attention, maybe people don't care, but they're just curious. Either way, I prefer filming and making videos without drawing attention to myself, and this is not it. So even though I've used this for like almost 6 years now, I think it's time to retire this and just keep it at home as a studio camera. I'm gonna use it to film the rest of this video. Next thing I would actually leave is the DJI mic. And I know that sounds kind of weird because it's so small, it lives in this tiny little box, and the transmitters or receivers are all in here. It gets charged within the case. So you'd think it's nothing to just kind of throw this in your backpack. But what I've realized is, while traveling, being on the go and kind of doing run and gun filming, I didn't like pulling this out and having to install it on my camera, because you still got to hook it up. You have to make sure the audio is working. I usually have to do some kind of little test. The option would be to leave this attached to the camera, but that's not always what I want either, because like the cable sticks out, and if I put it in my backpack, it might loosen the cable, which has happened in the past, which means that when I start filming, the audio is actually not working because I didn't double check the cable. It's just too many things that can go wrong. So I found it a little redundant. Even though these are tiny, I'm actually not gonna bring them again on my trip. The next thing I would leave at home is this LED light. And this is kind of a tough one. I went back and forth on this one. It's very tempting to bring because it is small, it's pretty light, it is handy. The thing is, it's just another thing I have to pull out in the moment to film a scene. Say I'm like in a dim restaurant, I have to remember to pull this out to light myself, light whatever I'm filming, and it draws attention. Just cranking this on in a bar in Osaka, it makes me feel kind of self-conscious. It's a little weird. Instead, I started to focus on, how do I use natural lighting? How do I just use lights that are already in the environment? Like, how do I just position myself better? It's not as good as having like a nice dedicated LED light, but it's less stuff to bring. It stands out less, it's less weight. I can go without it. The other reason I was bringing this along is when we would be at hotels, I would set this up at night and create kind of like a little vibe in the hotel, like some mood lighting, something that wasn't a big light. That's a nice to have. You don't really need it. It's just something I've gotten into the habit of doing every time I travel. Honestly, I'll go without the vibe for a couple of weeks. That's fine. I'll survive without the vibe. Plus, this thing, along with a whole bunch of other stuff, I have to remember to keep this charged. It's not a big deal, but once you have like 9 devices on you, things slip through the cracks. These all become like your little babies. And I just have like 12 little babies with me on the trip, and I don't really like that feeling. I want to keep it to like 3 babies max. Power bank. I was convinced you need this on every trip. This is an Anker power bank. I've had a couple of these in the past. These have their uses for sure, but I'm kind of repeating a few points here. It's heavy. Like, for a small thing like this, it's pretty dense, it's heavy, it adds up when you have a whole bunch of other stuff in your backpack. My fear was, oh, I'm gonna be out on the town, my phone's gonna die, I'm in a new country, I don't speak the language, I'm gonna be fucked. And like, the power bank would save me, it would charge up my phone. Honestly, did not happen one time. I'm pretty good at charging my phone. I'm pretty good at pacing the battery. I don't kill it that fast. It just never became a thing. This just became like an insurance brick I had in my backpack weighing me down that I never actually used. Plus the other thing is I travel with my laptop, and my laptop ends up becoming like a giant power bank for my smaller devices. So it's just another little brick I would carry around out of fear. Always had it on me, never used it once in like 7 weeks in Asia. Okay, this specifically is a travel cable bag organizer thingy. It zips up like that, and you have all your cables and maybe some memory cards and adapters and headphones, whatever else in here, all neatly organized. And I was like, sick, everything's gonna live in this little pouch that looks like a pencil holder I used to have in middle school. You know, you have your pencils and erasers in there. That's not a thing anymore, but that's what it reminds me of. The thing is, this kind of is a bulky item for something that just holds a few cables. It's not a heavy item, it's just a big rectangle to have in your bag, when in reality, I can just take those cables out, separate them, and just like tuck them away different parts of my backpack. I didn't really need this thing. I have this like fear in my head, the whole 2 is 1, 1 is none. Like if I bring one item, I'm gonna lose it, so then I'll have nothing. So let me bring 4 cables of the same cable. Even if you lose a cable, they're so cheap. Anywhere you go, you can pop into a store and just get a cheap cable. I didn't need to bring a collection of cables on this Asia trip in case I lost a few cables. Okay, and the final thing I would leave at home, I don't actually have it anymore. I sold it. For good reason. It was my Peak Design backpack. I would take this thing everywhere. Even if it was mostly empty, I would just have my camera in there and then maybe like a water bottle. It's heavy. Like for an empty backpack, it's heavy. Once you have a whole bunch of stuff in there like lenses and camera bodies, it adds up. It like cuts into your traps. If you're walking around with it, say like 10 hours a day in a new country, maybe you're out in nature, it gets annoying. I liked this backpack. I've used it a lot. It's just the direction of moving in is I want to have less gear, less heavy gear. And this backpack was meant to be very durable, very heavy duty. I thought like I needed basically a vault I carry around on my back for my camera gear. But over the years, what I found is if I'm only bringing a couple of items, I can kind of just toss them in a smaller bag, or sometimes I put them in my wife Julia's purse. Like I just don't want to have this big dedicated backpack that's going to be weighing me down. If anything, I might buy a smaller backpack that's a little lighter. So that's why I sold it. Okay, that's the stuff I'm not going to bring again on any trip. What am I going to bring? What would be what I consider my like new lean travel filmmaking kit? Well, first of all, since I'm not bringing the Sony a7S III anymore, instead I'm going to take the Sony ZV-E10. I had both this and my big Sony on the trip, and that was just not needed. For travel, I found this smaller Sony is good enough, at least for the type of stuff I was making. For obvious reasons, it's much lighter, it's easier to grip, it's easier to store. It's just more convenient in every way possible. Ideally, I bring no camera, but for what I want to make, I feel like that's still not an option, so this Sony ZV is gonna be the compromise. I would still bring my laptop. Now, is this the best laptop for travel? No. When I bought it, I did not think of that. I thought I was just gonna edit on this at home. So I'm like, let me get the 16-inch MacBook Pro. If I were to buy a new one, it would be the 14-inch because that's obviously better to fly in. This doesn't even fully open in a standard economy seat on an airplane. I don't think bringing a big laptop like this is for everyone though when it comes to travel, because not everyone likes to edit while traveling. I like coming home at the end of the day, coming back to the hotel, popping in my memory cards, and like doing a rough cut of the footage that I shot that day. It's just my preference. So in spite of how big and heavy this is probably the bulkiest item I travel with, I would still take it. For audio, instead of bringing those little DJIs, what I am gonna bring is the Sony shotgun mic. This is the Sony ECM B10. And what I like about it is because I have a Sony body, there's no cable. It's just an electronic connection like that. That means that unlike my other audio equipment I've used in the past, like the Rode NTG or the DJI wireless mic, I've never accidentally bumped this and disconnected it. Once it's on, it's pretty much on. I can pull it out anytime, start getting great audio. I don't have to pair a receiver with a transmitter. It's good to go. It's an easy kit and it's light. Obviously, it goes without saying that my iPhone is still something I will take. I've used this to grab shots that I've kind of seamlessly integrated into my video. Honestly, I think for a lot of people, their phone is their main filming device. You can get amazing results with this. I can make an entire separate video on how to do really good videos with the phone, but it's why it's always gonna be with me when I travel. I could probably travel with just this and still get away with making a decent video out of it. The only bummer is I can't use my iPhone with the Sony shotgun mic. It just won't connect. But for traveling, I kind of just use the phone and whatever audio the phone picks up. So it's a great camera for like grabbing shots that you missed if you don't happen to have your main camera on you. It's slender. I don't have to tell you what a phone is. You know it's a small little thing that you can put in your pocket. So all this stuff that I am bringing needs to live on something. And what is gonna make the cut for my filmmaking kit is this Manfrotto tripod with the Manfrotto clip. Doesn't have to be this brand, could be any light, affordable little tripod that you like. I just like this one, it's well built. Like this can support my phone, this will support my Sony ZV-E10. I can set it down anywhere, I can angle this ball head. I like it. I don't like traveling with full-size tripods or even mid-size tripods like the one I have. I just want this small little guy and I just want to use it with all my other little guy gear. Okay, that's it. I've learned a lot from lugging all this gear around for several weeks across Asia. I've learned what gets used a lot. I've learned what barely gets touched. And I feel like I did take away a few things from this. The first one and most obvious is bigger gear is more weight. And I know all these things individually don't seem like anything, but when you have a whole already heavy backpack crammed with these things, plus other stuff like snacks and water, I just felt like a Ninja Turtle carrying around like a big shell on my back. I didn't like it. I wanted to feel a little more light so that I would be more enthusiastic about exploring, especially if I'm like jet lagged. It's harder to fly under the radar when you have all this stuff on you. It draws more attention. It makes me more self-conscious to shoot in public. Overall, it leads to, I think, me enjoying filming in public a little less. And the whole point of doing all this is like, if you don't like it, if you're not at ease, what's the point? Professional camera crews, obviously it's their job, they don't mind bringing a whole ton of stuff, but if you're just traveling for fun and you want to document it or you want to make a vlog out of it or whatever, you want to feel light. You want to have a good time. And like bringing all this stuff might get in the way of that. And lastly, because you're traveling with so much stuff that isn't cheap, there's always this fear in the back of my mind of like losing it or getting it stolen. You know, you have a backpack on you that has so many small electronics that on their own are worth a lot of money and they all add up. Like at one point I'm just walking around with a whole electronics department store on my back. I got my laptop, my cameras, my memory cards, my mics. Like I don't want to be walking around feeling like, oh, I got 10 G's on me right now. And if something goes wrong, if I lose my bag, I leave it in the subway in Tokyo, it's gonna ruin my life. So cost is definitely a big part of it. Okay, that's it. That's all the stuff I brought. That's the stuff I wouldn't bring again. If you're thinking about buying any of this stuff or you want to travel with certain gear, hopefully that helped. If you have any questions or if there's any way I can help out, let me know in the comments and I'll do my best. All right, thanks for watching.